I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
The holiday season is a critical time for places like Duluth's Damiano Center, which provides important services to those in need.
New warming shelters in Superior and Duluth are welcoming folks as an early winter blast has brought plunging temperatures.
And we'll have news from NASA about the first ever interstellar comet hurtling through our solar system.
These stories and the business news next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thank you for watching. And Denny, it's good to be back after a few weeks off during Thanksgiving and the membership drive.
And I understand the membership drive was quite successful, and we want to thank all the people who donated to the television station. We really seriously thank you.
We do indeed. It's a very important time here at the station, and we have a lot of important things to talk about tonight as well. So why don't we get right into it?
All right. Thank you so much, Julie. Welcome, everyone. Well, the Damiano Center has been providing critical services in downtown Duluth since 1982. Whether it's a meal or some new clothing, the folks at the Damiano are there to help with no questions asked. They have 7 different programs to help those in need. Joining us with more is Seth Currier, Damiano Center Executive Director, and Sister Lois Eckes is the chair of the Damiano Board of Directors. I want to thank you both for being here on a real snowy Friday night. Thanks for coming in tonight. Now, Seth, it's my understanding the Damiano Center actually began as kind of a temporary soup kitchen. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, it was. It began out of a temporary need. Some people were serving a meal out of their kitchen, and they really, needed more space, and so they had asked the diocese if they could use the elementary school next door. So that's what the Damiano building used to be. So,
So how has the organization evolved over the years, both in terms of the number of programs and maybe the population that it serves?
Yeah. It has changed and grown. I mean, as the more needs we've recognized that there are more needs in the community. We know we started out with the kitchen, and then we quickly added the clothing program after that. And then over the years, there were children in the neighborhood who didn't have a meal, and so then we had the kids program, and we've just been adding as we've seen the need. So but we're very particular to just kind of make sure that it's something that is rising out of what the community is saying is needed, and not something that we just think that is needed. So, yeah.
Sister, you're the chair of the board of directors of the Damiano Center. How long have you been chair? Quite a while?
Well, I've been chair. This is my second year as chair, but I've been on the Damiano board. I was on for 9 years. Then I took a break for a year because our term limits are 9 years. And then I came back on. Now I'm in my second round.
So you're very familiar with this ministry. Tell us, really, how important is the Damiano Center in the city of Duluth?
Oh, it is absolutely vital, essential, Dennis. There are people who, I don't know how they would make it without the services that Damiano provides. From soup kitchen to clothes at work, to the clothing program, to all the services that are there. The people really depend on Damiano to make it. And that's how it began, when there was such a need in the neighborhood in the Central Hillside area and beyond, of course, but especially there, were people who were struggling to make ends meet, and so Damiano was there to be a lifeline for them, really.
Seth, let's talk about some of the programs specifically. The community kitchen is one that I think a lot of people are very familiar with, where people can go and get a free, nutritious meal. Talk about that program and like how many meals do you serve every week? Do you always have a full house?
So it depends on the time of the month and you know, the time of the year. So it is the largest emergency meal provider in northeastern Minnesota, and last year we served 120,000 meals.
Really?
Over 120,000 meals, yeah. So I mean, it's really serving a need. We serve 13 meals a week, and so that's breakfast and lunch on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then we serve dinner on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, yeah.
Where do you get all the food?
Yeah, well, so we, from a lot of places, so we work really closely with Second Harvest, with the food bank, and we get a lot of food that we purchase from them at a reduced rate. But we also are, just like any other restaurant, we're purchasing from the same distributors that restaurants are ordering from as well, just because we meet all the same health code standards. But we do have donations of you know, food that people do make in an industrial kitchen that they can donate to us as well.
So can folks in need eat every meal that you provide, or are they limited to X number of meals per week?
No, we don't ask any questions. People can come and they can eat a meal and they can go back for seconds and thirds, or however much they need. They can come back tomorrow. Yeah, we allow anybody to come. It is open to everybody.
That's a wonderful characteristic of Damiano, that it doesn't ask any questions. It's non-judgmental, and people of all walks of life and all socioeconomic levels, culturally, faith-based or not, everyone is welcome, and we want people to come and feel very respected and honored, and their dignity really upheld.
Why is it called Damiano Center?
That's a wonderful question, Dennis. Actually, it goes back to when the story began. Really the dream started in 1981, and then it was a community response to a need, which is so beautiful. You know, a little community organizing. You know, a group got together and said, we need to do something about this, and so they formed a little board, and so what are we going to call this? Well, as you know, Bishop Paul Anderson was a great devotee of St. Francis of Assisi, and so St. Francis, the story of him being called, he thought, to rebuild the church in San Damiano near Assisi. No. God was talking about the people. Build up the people, rebuild their lives, give them hope. And so, okay, what are we going to call this new place now? Well, we're not going to use a religious name, because we want it to be very non-denominational.
Sure.
Everyone's welcome. Well, Damiano sounds like everybody would be fine with that, you know, because it's a place. So that's when they named it Damiano Center then.
Yeah. Seth, talk about the FreeStore a little bit and the types of things that people can find there.
Yeah, so the FreeStore itself is primarily clothing, and it is whatever comes through the door. I mean, everything that goes out is clean, and it doesn't have any tears or anything wrong with it. It's not dirty. But when we put that out there, people can just come and get a free bag of clothes a day. Every day if they need it. People don't usually take advantage of that. But yeah, but it's open. It's the largest free store in the area, and it is, you know, and it changes. The inventory in there will be completely different the next week, and that's just because we have so many donations coming through the door. So we have very dedicated volunteers that sort all of those clothes and put them out every day. But there's shoes, and there are, you know, tops, bottoms, belts, whatever it might be, underwear, socks, all of those things for kids, men, women, and children. So
are donations up or down this year?
It's actually, for the last couple of months they've been quite high. I mean, we haven't really seen a dip in the donations, but in the last, you know, couple weeks it is starting to taper off just slightly. Yeah.
Are there items that you find you need more than other things, or are there things that people tend to drop off that you definitely don't want?
Well, we can't take furniture or anything like that. We can take some small household items, because we can give those out in our community services. But as far as clothing goes, we always need men's. We get a fraction of the men's donations that we get of women's and children's and kids' donations. So we're always in need of men's clothes. boots, men's, and then in this time of year, obviously coats and boots and those kind of things, especially men's and especially larger size coats and boots. Those are things that we're always in need of, but we'll take anything, so yeah.
I was interested in the Clothes That Work program that you offer too, because it seems like in many cases not having appropriate clothing can be a barrier for somebody who is going out and looking for work or for somebody who has to go to work every day. Talk about the importance of that program and how it works.
Yeah, that's a beautiful program. So it's a program where someone can come in and they can get 2 sets of clothes if they have an interview coming up. And so that's to help them feel comfortable and feel confident when they walk into that interview. It could be dress clothes or something that's appropriate for the job interview that they're going to. But then if they get the job or if they're currently employed, they can come get 5 sets of clothes every 6 months. Now that is tops, bottoms, shoes, undergarments, jewelry, whatever it might be. But it's not just dress clothes, it's not just business casual clothes. We have nursing scrubs because we have a lot of PCAs and a lot of people coming through, nurses and that are getting those clothes. We have black clothes for working in food service. We have construction clothes. We have all sorts, whatever type of industry somebody might be working in, we can hopefully accommodate them.
Sister, how does the Damiano Center find volunteers? I'm sure a number of volunteers are needed.
A great number are needed, and that's one of the strengths of the Damiano work, is that we have a very dedicated group of volunteers. Sometimes we need more than we have, but other times we have maybe a little surplus, which is great to have. But the word goes out. Sometimes exposure in the media will make people aware. So Seth, you could speak a little bit more fully to that than I, because you know how that ebbs and flows. So, yeah.
Well, it definitely ebbs and flows with the year, but we have over 1,000 volunteers a year of people from the Twin Ports that are volunteering every year in the Damiano. And right now in the holiday season, we tend to see a lot of people wanting to volunteer, but I'll tell you, as soon as we hit the new year, we are going to see a big drop in volunteers. So if people are interested in volunteering, we definitely need people in the new year. And that's reflective of the time of year, but also we do get a lot of students, and there are no students. There's a break in classes, and so we're going to need some volunteers coming up here very soon. So yeah.
How do you find volunteers?
Social media, and we have a lot of groups that regularly volunteer. We have classes at the colleges that sometimes send people to volunteer. A lot of people just they walk. Yeah, they can walk in, but we can't help. They can't volunteer that day. They have to fill out an application and go through a process. But yeah, we all kinds of ways people are coming in to volunteer.
And sometimes there are organizations that will dedicate a day a month, or isn't that right,
Sure.
Seth? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So they have a commitment on a regular basis. But it says that it really gets lean when classes are not in session. But yeah.
Well, we're so lucky as well. We have volunteers, some volunteers that have been volunteering for 37 years, monthly, excuse me. We have monthly volunteers that volunteer every month in the same day. So there's just a lot of variety there.
We have about a minute left, and I know that you want to talk about an upcoming event called Community Connect. Maybe you could give us some details about that, one or both of you, to why it's important and what people can expect.
Yeah, Community Connect is a really beautiful event. It's a community effort. It's not a Damiano event. It's housed at the Damiano, but it's the county and a lot of other agencies that are working together to host this event. And it has haircuts and birth certificates and IDs and warrant resolution and just access to lots of resources, healthcare and all those kind of things. And so it happens twice a year, and it's coming up on January 23rd. And it's just such an important time for people to get some resources that they don't always get, that they can't get any of our agencies at other times. So it's just a one-stop shop. It's great.
Your sister?
I was just going to add to that. The way that we interact with the people who come is really so beautiful. And it just reminds me of the resilience and the strength and the inner resources that people use when they come to get the help they need.
Well, Sister Lois and Seth, can't thank you enough for being here and telling your story tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the good work you're doing. Really appreciate it.
Night. And now we turn to some news from space, where a rare comet has scientists and the astronomy world fascinated. It's the first known interstellar comet, meaning it came from far outside our solar system. The ancient ball of ice and rock formed in a distant star system, and scientists are clamoring to study this frozen time capsule. Well, this week, NASA shared some new views of the comet taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. We put together this report from images and interviews provided by NASA.
This comet is very different from all the other comets we've ever known about. The comets we've known already come from our own solar system. They can sometimes come from very far out in our solar system and travel nearby the sun and return to the outer parts of our solar system. But this comet has a very unusual trajectory, and it's moving very fast, over 100,000 miles an hour. Therefore, it must have come from some other star system, been ejected, and is just passing through our solar system. It's moving fast enough that the gravity of the sun and planets in our own solar system can't hold it in, so it will eventually leave our solar system. So this comet is whizzing through. It will get about as close as the inner part of the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter, so something like 180 million miles from Earth, and then will continue its very fast trajectory on out of the solar system.
So the comet was discovered by an amateur astronomer, and I'm sure right at the moment he discovered it, he probably didn't realize it was an interstellar comet. But he and others, whenever there's a discovery like this, many people jump in and start making observations over the next days and weeks and try to figure out the orbit so that we know where it's going to be in the future. And very quickly people realized that this comet was not on an elliptical orbit around the sun. It was not orbiting the sun. It was on a hyperbolic orbit, which means it's just passing through the solar system, that it was the first of its kind in that regard. So that's when the excitement started to build last summer, and that's when we started getting prepared to observe it with Hubble, and many other telescopes around the world jumped in to try to observe this object.
This comet is actually a fairly dim object. It's not a naked eye object, so you can't go outside and look for it with your naked eye. And it's also not bright enough that you could get it with a common small telescope. You really need larger telescopes to be able to see this comet. Lots of the ground-based observatories that do have the bigger glass are observing this comet because it is such a rare event that's happening, and also Hubble is observing it. And all of these observatories make their images available to the public. And in particular, the Hubble archive has all of the images available. So if you go online to the Hubble site, you can look at the comet in great detail.
We're happy to be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Hubble Space Telescope next year, and the Hubble telescope is operating very well right now. We have a wonderful suite of science instruments. We're using Hubble for some of the best scientific discoveries we've ever made with Hubble, and so we anticipate many more years of good data and good discoveries and observations from our eye in the sky, the Hubble Space Telescope. We're hoping to learn from studies of Comet Borisov what other star systems are like compared to our own by comparing, let's say, the size and the composition of this comet with comets in our own solar system. This would be very interesting as we try to find out whether our own solar system is similar or different to other star systems.
So comets and asteroids are small bodies in our solar system. They are much, much smaller than the planets. Asteroids are typically made up of mostly rock with a little bit of ices thrown in. And comets are basically the reverse of that. They're mostly ices with a little bit of rock thrown in. And what happens to comets in particular as they get close to the sun, that ice starts to evaporate, and that's what causes, it catches the sunlight and it starts to make these beautiful images that we see of the tail. And that's the comet shape.
Hubble has observed many comets in its 30 years of observations. Some of them have been generic run-of-the-mill comets. Sometimes comets have broken up into pieces, and Hubble has seen that. The most famous comet that I'm familiar with is Shoemaker-Levy 9. This was a comet that was discovered 25 years ago and was actually in orbit around Jupiter, and in fact, it hit Jupiter. And left many black spots in the atmosphere of Jupiter when the comet fragments hit. That was 25 years ago this year. All of Hubble's images are put online. You can go to nasa.gov/Hubble to see this latest image of this interstellar comet Borisov. You can follow Hubble on Twitter at at NASA Hubble. There's an Instagram page. There's a Hubble site page, S-I-T-E site. There are many ways to follow Hubble online.
With the official first day of winter still a week away, the Northland has already been buried in deep snow and endured bone-chilling cold. All signs are pointing to a long, cold winter, which is especially dangerous for the region's homeless population. This winter, there are some new options for overnight shelter in these brutal conditions. We sent our team out to learn more about the shelters.
We think there are about 150 people living unsheltered in the city of Duluth who've been advocating for this sort of warming center for a long, long time. The use this year is already as big as it ever was at any time last year, so people are really grateful for it coming in. And so being able to have these warming centers open is definitely a community sign of compassion. We really appreciate the community support and Gloria Day making their place available and the kindness of people, that we know that there are people who are really struggling here in Duluth and who don't have a warm and safe place.
We are an overnight warming center for the homeless that need a safe shelter at night. Through our street ministry, we got to know the homeless community quite well. And many of them would say, there's nothing in Superior, there's nothing there, there's no place for us to go. This is actually the first overnight warming center in Douglas County. And we, like I mentioned before, we're privately funded and we're completely volunteer-based. We expect to have our doors wide open all winter long. We are excited to service this community and to offer what we do offer.
Let's turn now to the business news from the editors at Business North. Mike Birkeland was selected as the new Executive Vice President of Minnesota Forest Industries and the Minnesota Timber Producers Association. Birkeland succeeds Wayne Brandt, who passed away in September after leading the two organizations for 30 years. Birkeland has worked at Grand Rapids-based Lake Country Power for the past 13 years and is Director of Member Service and Community Relations. The forest and timber groups encourage conservation, proper forest management, and sound environmental stewardship.
Current construction at Essentia Health's $800 million Vision Northland project in Duluth involves blasting rocks. More than 44,000 cubic yards of rock will be excavated from the hospital's downtown site. The amount of rock being hauled away will fill about 5,500 dump trucks, enough to cover the Amsoil Arena ice sheet with a 70-foot high pile. Before each blast, the excavation area is covered with mats and tires to prevent flying rock. Air horn signals sound both 5 minutes and 1 minute before each blast, and they're scheduled at noon and 4 p.m. daily.
Shell Lake, Wisconsin is receiving a $250,000 state grant to help remodel the Indian Head Medical Center Hospital and renovate the attached Shell Lake Clinic. Indian Head is a privately owned 25-bed critical access hospital with a 24-hour emergency room. It offers a variety of medical services, including general surgery, cardiology, orthopedics, and radiology. The grant is from the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. It will support construction of a 9,000-square-foot clinic building, an ambulance garage, a new sidewalk, and street paving. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
You can keep up with our latest topics and interviews and earlier stories by following Almanac North on our social media channels. You'll find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And for updates about your favorite PBS programs, visit the WDSE website, where you'll also find news about the station and learn about our upcoming public events. And Denny, it's starting to feel like this could be a really long winter. We'd like to thank all of our guests and all of our visitors.
Well, absolutely. Want to thank our guests for being here tonight. Winter indeed, and I think snow shovels are absolutely needed this week.
All right. For Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.